afternoon, everybody. It is Monday, July 25th, 2022 at 6 p.m. and I will call to order the Freetown Board of Selectmen meeting. This meeting will be recorded and will be available on our town YouTube page. So I'll kick things off with agenda item number 1. This is the open session meeting minutes from 6/21/2022, 6/29/2022, 7/11/2022, and 7/14/2022. I'll entertain a motion to approve the open session minutes, meeting minutes from those dates.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So next is Rainbow Workshop, use of Pathway Park on 8/22/2022, 8/22/2022 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Any concerns on Rainbow Workshop?
No, they do this every year at different locations. They must have a large group this year.
I'm a graduate of Rainbow Workshop myself.
I have children that have gone through, and then one's gonna be there this year. So she does a great job over there.
I was the tree in the play.
Very nice.
All right.
I hate that.
Look up that.
So,
Look up those past photos and
Yeah.
bring them to a meeting.
just saw those recently. All right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve Rainbow Workshop's use of Pathway Park on 8/22/2022.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I see it says just acknowledge, so maybe you didn't need a vote on that, but just to be safe, it doesn't matter. Okay, so next is the Town of Freetown Americans with Disability Act notice. So is this just like some kind of formalizing some language here?
Yeah, so there's a grant coming up in the fall that you can apply for an ADA self-evaluation transition plan.
Mm-hmm.
In order to apply for that grant, you first have to have some procedures in place, the
Yep.
grievance procedure, and the notice basically saying, if you have a grievance, this is what you need to do. So these things just need to be formalized and posted in our town hall, so that if, in fact, any of these things happen, we have a procedure in place. I actually had sent these over to Victoria and asked her to prepare them. She prepared them. I changed one of them today a little bit, but it's just, necessary formalities that we should have in place in case there is a grievance from an employee, that they know what the procedures are. Jeff has been, I'm sure, appointed as the coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
and so this is just a formality of the procedure, even though, we always had an informal procedure that we would investigate and take care of it. Now this is formalizing that procedure and posting it so that we can move forward and do some other things with ADA in the
Perfect.
future.
That makes sense. All right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Town of Freetown Americans with Disability Act notice.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then related to that, I will entertain a motion to approve the Town of Freetown American with Disability Act grievance procedure.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we have next is the IRS increase in mileage rate of 62.5 cents per mile, effective 7/1 through 12/31/2022. This is just, I'm sure it's based on the CPI or something.
Yeah, that's just census.
Census, yeah.
Saying we're increasing the mileage rate.
Don't have much of a choice. All right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the IRS increase in mileage rate of 62.5 cents per mile, effective 7/1/2022 through 12/31/2022.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we have ambulance abatements and write-offs for June 2022 in the amount of $187,777.75. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the ambulance abatements and write-offs for June 2022.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I think I'm
4
not
minutes in, we got through 6 agenda items.
Let's keep it going.
Okay, so now Personnel Board.
All right. Discussion and possible action on the following topics. Number 7. Approve the appointments for the following 2 individuals: Michael Souza as labor, effective 7/26/2022, and Swede Magnet to Zoning Board of Appeals, effective 7/1/2022 through 6/30/2023. Any discussions, concerns, or anything on these 2 appointments? That said, I entertain the motion to appoint Michael Souza as laborer effective 7/26/2022, and as well as Swede Magnet to zoning board of appeals effective 7/1/2022 through 6/30/2023.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on along. Discussion, possible action on the following topics. This topic is discussing boat ramp kiosk and staffing. So, looks like the kiosk got the new piece that was needed for credit cards.
Great.
It's being used. So far, no one's broken it or hasn't been broken, which is great. Staffing's haven't had any or got any complaints regarding staffing. So I think everything's going nice and smooth right now. Knock on wood. So
Yeah, so just update over this week, past weekend, the staff worked 2 to 6 on Friday. We overlapped them Saturday, one worked 8 to 2 and the other one worked 12 to 6. And then Sunday, they both worked 8 to 4, extremely busy weekend, I think because of the heat, and there was apparently some concert out on the water.
Lake Palooza, that's
So
Lake
we
Eagles.
collected, we sold about, from what we can tell from the cash, we sold about 50 tickets on Saturday. Probably a little more on Sunday. There was equal cash to using the kiosk. So the kiosk is getting, people are getting more used to using that.
Yeah.
We're still working out some of the kinks in the reporting that we're getting from the kiosk. But overall, I think it's pretty good.
So I was told that like the lot was, I think it was last weekend, the lot actually was totally full.
It was again on Sunday.
You gotta say, so now, one of the things I've been curious about is like how people are reacting when that, like what are they doing when that happens? Are they trying to,
No,
They're
she's
just
up
leaving,
and
right?
down, right?
Just leaving,
I mean,
No,
Luann was down there.
They've been pretty respectful of the staff down there.
Okay.
Someone did run over the parking lot is full sign, but I think that was inadvertent.
I'm
And it
driving
wasn't
the
there.
boat in the trailer is pretty difficult, so I get
Right, so, and one of the staff members is out by the chain and whatnot when it's, up, so that they can immediately jump right out and say, hey, just wanna let you know, no, it's, you gotta keep going around. Some of them want to, people have asked, like, can you call us? And they're like, no, we can't, so when it's open, you just have to come back around.
Okay.
Great.
No, that's good, because I know last year we had a lot of problems with people parking everywhere else, or unloading boats and parking everywhere else, which was causing issues.
But yeah, now we have someone down there, right?
Yeah.
I really do think the 2 staff members on Sunday, because once that gate is closed, somebody has to stay kind of at the gate and then
Yeah.
somebody else.
So let people out and,
Yeah, and I think it is working too, just the buddy system, there's 2 people there, there's not as much incident. We also have given them the beach stickers too, in case people wanna go to the beach on the weekend and they need a sticker, they can go get it from them. I'm not sure how many they've distributed there. But at last count, we had like 78 that we had given, we had 78 beach stickers that were issued. I know,
Excellent.
you were always trying to figure out how much the beach is being utilized. And Luann went to the beach on Sunday. and
Yeah, I went Saturday at 11 in the morning, no one was there. And then I went Sunday, 11 in the morning, no one was there, 2 o'clock was packed.
really,
Oh, wow. Good.
Interesting.
That's great.
So that's,
and no complaints of trash being left there or anything of that nature yet?
I think we got a trash
we got a
complaint
complaint
this
today
morning.
at
Oh, really?
that boat ramp.
But the boat
actually.
ramp, but like the staff out there, the preceding weekend, you know, I mean, I went by and said, here's some gloves, make sure you just kind of do a once over and pick it up, and then this weekend, I think they probably just didn't because it was so hot, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that maybe when they leave at, we've had this discussion, they leave at 4 o'clock on Sunday, and I'm sure their boats are still in the water. We've talked about extended changing their hours, I feel like it works well, and I think we should leave it alone, and so there might have been some people leaving trash behind after 4 o'clock that nobody had the chance to pick up. I don't know exactly what happened, but I told, I said, why don't you call Chuck, I'm sure he'll pick it up, as Chuck always does.
Yeah.
So, nothing crazy though, nothing crazy.
yeah, I mean, we can't have like, we can't have people there until all the boats leave, 'cause, I mean, I've been on the pond at night before,
Right.
there's still a lot of
There
people.
were people like, in particular Saturday night, I
Yeah.
mean, I actually ran into someone who, I heard him over talking to his friend, they didn't get off the boat until 9 o'clock,
Yeah,
you know, just well after.
Right, and we almost think it's better than, if we've ticketed them, if one of the staff ticketed them, it's almost better if their staff isn't there, right, when they come back.
yeah,
They have been issuing tickets, so, we'll see how that starts to, pan out.
For people, so tickets for when people didn't get bypass.
Right, and so so sometimes I think they get a ticket too, and then they pay when they come in, so they voided about 5 tickets. So if you come in and you just didn't get a ticket because nobody was there and didn't
Yeah.
realize you could get one at the kiosk, you can say, oh, I didn't realize that, and you go, oh, here's my $10, okay, void the ticket.
Yep.
So, they are voiding tickets, they seem to be doing a great job.
That's great.
Seems to be a lot less friction, let's knock on wood,
So
still
far, so
in weeks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But everything's up and running right now, and probably the next thing, we've been, Lynn, I think, got a quote on getting a gate, right, for that entrance there, so that might be the next thing that if we do get funding from state reps, that maybe we talk about putting a gate that they can actually physically close, as opposed to chains and cones and whatever else they're doing to try to close the gate. It's sort of a makeshift gate, it isn't a gate.
Like one that went up, like a nice.
Or roll by,
Yeah,
or rolling
Yeah,
line.
something, I don't know, well, the one price that she got was like $13,000 just
Yeah.
for a gate. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize it would be that expensive.
Yeah, gates are, fencing these days are,
But at least that's would be, I think, another step in the right direction if we get the funding from
Yeah.
Rep Schmidt.
Okay, so I think that's everything on this part of the agenda. We're gonna sign, right, anything we assign now, and then we're gonna go to recess and come back for the BP discussion at 7 p.m.
The first one, you're just weekly warrants. We changed it just to release action, it's just the grievance, right?
I just, what?
We'll get through together. This is the act,
That's fine.
and that's fine, okay, I pulled the grievance one, and I'll make the
Maybe sign
changes.
on, yeah. Yeah, this is already, I think that it's an October grant.
But that's the disability status.
sure. Did she say how much the grant was for, Deb?
I'm sorry,
Disability.
The disability grant?
so the grant will be to prepare a plan, and that
IRS coverage.
grant, what they do is assess your town buildings for compliance with ADA.
Okay.
And then they create a report, and once that report is done, the next round is action grants, so you can say, okay, we don't have a ramp at this building, that can, and you apply for the grant to pay for that. Also, I think I've told you that ADA, that transition plan will become part of your open space plan. It's a requirement for your open space to be assessed for ADA access as well. So, that's for a report, so they run around $35,000 to $40,000 for those reports. No, and that was a few years ago, so it might even be $45,000, it depends on how many properties you have assessed.
Stuck together.
I've done those
You gotta
ADA
sign
assessments
one.
before, we're not gonna do so hot in some of our buildings.
I missed one too?
Oh, not passed.
Oh, no, we won't pass. I've done those ADA, studies and assessments for different facilities, and I'll just take town hall.
Yeah, we did that.
when I-
Must
when I
have stuck
do-
together.
Okay, alright, so I'll, one more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, I will entertain a motion to go into recess and return back at 7 p.m.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, so we're now back in open session after the recess. So we wanted to add these agenda items to start to communicate, what joining BP would mean for Freetown, the steps we need to take to make that happen, or for the town to make a decision about this. And so we invited all these folks who we think would be best suited to answer some of these questions for the town, kind of explain where we stand now and what the potential future looks like here. So I think when we start, I'd like to have everyone just introduce themselves quickly.
Sure, just before we do that, Trevor, I think I'm gonna have to entertain a motion to bring us into
Oh, yeah,
open session as
sorry,
well.
right, jumped ahead of that.
So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to bring the Freetown Vocational Education Exploratory Committee into open session.
So moved.
So I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Cool.
So Jill, we'll start with you, just, name and who you're representing here,
Name, rank, serial number.
Yes.
Jean Fox, I'm with the school committee.
Hi folks, Will Sinkowitz, Freetown Lakeville School Committee as well.
Cheryl Estrella, I am the parent representative and as well as the Freetown Town Clerk.
Carl Wilkes, Board of Selectmen.
Jared Zager, Board of Selectmen.
Trevor Matthews, Board of Selectmen.
Deborah Petty, interim town administrator.
Margaret French, Finance Committee.
Rick Redeers, former superintendent in Freetown Lakeville School District, been for 8 years, was part of the exploratory group. Alan Strauss, who will introduce himself in just a moment, has taken over my position, but from a historical perspective and experience perspective, I'm still working through this transition to see this through.
Alan Strauss, Superintendent of Schools.
Alex Magley, Superintendent, Bristol Plymouth.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So Deb, you want to kind of kick the conversation off and
So, the town of Freetown has not, belonged to a vocational school district, other than we do belong to Bristol Aggie. We don't belong to a vocational school district. We have been previously sent students to Old Colony, and now currently we're sending students to Bristol Plymouth. They have allowed us to send students there. But this has, a couple of years ago, it came up that we needed to belong to a vocational school to guarantee our children a place to go, because there are no guarantees if we don't belong to a vocational school district. So the committee did some exploratory, and they determined that Bristol Plymouth, with their offerings, was the best choice for joining a vocational school. And so the process began back in 2020, I believe. A vote was taken by the selectmen to pursue that, and it's a little, and the superintendents can talk to the process, but it has, DESE has to agree to allow the town of Freetown in. Agreements had to be done, and all of the towns that belong to that school district have to also agree to allow the town of Freetown in. And so that is sort of where we're at in this process, is our town has to vote to be a part of the district, and all the other surrounding towns that are in the district have to vote to approve Freetown to be joining this district. So we will be going to town meeting for this vote. The date is up in the air, but sometime in this fall, we will be going to town meeting to have the town vote to join the vocational district, Bristol Plymouth. In the meantime, we know that they are building a new school, and that was just approved back in March, I believe, to build a new vocational school. So with that new school is some of the financial commitment to the town. So hence a little more questions, and we wanted to have this meeting to just explain the process, where we're at, and then discuss any questions that anybody has, so that we can be prepared to make this vote at town meeting.
yeah, thank you very much, Deb. Now, either Will or Jean, being on the exploratory committee and going through the different process and looking at different options, I mean, I know you've explained this to us before, and how you came down on BP as being, what the right choice would be for Freetown, but could you just speak to that a little bit for this folks who?
Certainly, and you can chime in, Will. We, was an uncomfortable position to be in, to have our kids having been accepted and then summarily dismissed that 1 year. It became clear that we needed to find another option. Now, we had an opportunity many, many years ago to become a member of Old Colony and declined to do so. And Old Colony had allowed us to continue to send our kids at a higher tuition level, but to send our kids consistently. And we had maintained a sort of steady enrollment over the years until that horrible year. So our committee was formed, our committee went out, and we went to several schools actually, looked at what the options were. And it came down to Bristol Plymouth has a far more generous palette of opportunities for our kids. Yes, they're building. Old Colony is going to be building as well, which will have a financial impact on us. All of these schools are doing it, by the way. Voc just built in New Bedford. Diamond's looking at building. All the schools are expanding. They're getting additional funding for that, but they're also relying on the member communities to support these efforts, and they're all wonderful efforts. They're all meant to enhance the educational experience of the kids that attend, much like we did years ago right here in Freetown Lakeville with our buildings. We were very, very, very impressed with the offerings. We felt very positive coming out of the meeting that we had, the several meetings that we had with Bristol Plymouth, that this was not only suitable, but a preferable location for kids. It offers so much more for less money. And geographically, it made sense as well. So you want to chime in now, Will, before I go on too long, because I have a tendency to do that?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's important to say too that initially when those students weren't allowed to go to Freetown, the first folks that we went and sat down at the table with was Old Colony themselves. And one of the things that didn't sit well with us was, one, obviously we felt that there were some families in Freetown that were left out in the cold. And two, Old Colony couldn't give us any assurances that it wouldn't be happening the following year either, while we researched trying to become a member of the district. And it was at that point where we kind of made a decision to reach out, and like Jean said, we did. We researched all the Voc schools in the area, and Alex, to his credit, he welcomed us with open arms, allowed us to tour the facility, answered the 1,000 questions we've thrown at him throughout this entire process. He's been great. But with that being said, I think the building project is going to be something that we do need to educate folks on, and I've been saying it all along. This is something that as a town, we're going to have to sell the value of for our students. So I think this is just the beginning of educating folks, in my opinion. But if I was sitting here and the building project was not a thing, right, and I said we could offer our students more shops and save the town money, I think it's a no-brainer, right? And that's kind of where we came to as a committee. So I think that provides a little bit of the background for you folks.
Perfect. And then just to speak to the specific kind of, like, let's just get it out in the open, like the financial impact here, like what we're really talking about, right? Just to be totally transparent. I think Debbie, you might have some numbers that we can speak to on that, or the finance.
Of course, nothing is, 100% set in stone, but the projected cost of Freetown, and it will change as the number of our students go. So it's a percentage based on our student enrollment. So, but the projection is we'll probably have, 76 to 80 students there. Our portion of the debt would be approximately 5%. I think it's 183 million is the debt. So Freetown's portion might be $15 million. So the guesstimates we're using is about a $700,000 a year commitment for the bond funding, and that's the number. If we were to have a debt exclusion, that would cost each household approximately, the average household, a $365,000 household, about $130 annually a year in tax increase. If the town does not approve the debt exclusion, which it would have to go to town meeting and town vote, that $700,000 would have to come out of our current operating budget. And that is a concern because we do not have $700,000 available in extra funds currently. So there is definitely a commitment that needs to be made. Fortunately, I think whenever these commitments need to be made and new buildings need to be built, it's a little painful in the beginning, but it's necessary to get where we need to go so that we have those options. But so that's a big question too, whether we do the debt exclusion or not, and it's something that the town will have to vote for.
Yeah. Be a valid question, is how we've talked about it.
I have a question.
Yeah, so you please state your name.
My name is Dan Crispin.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the enrollment, about 70 or 80 students there from Freetown, is our student population going to determine how much we pay?
Yeah,
exactly.
And is there a guarantee of availability of seats regardless of how our enrollment goes? Or?
I'm going to ask.
That's a great question.
Our original agreement doesn't have quotas by town, so it's basically everybody goes into a pool and it goes through a process of admission process, and it can fluctuate, but things tend to stay pretty steady. If Freetown was what was going to Oak Colony, if you had about 70 kids going, I suspect that that'll probably be in the average. You have plus minuses per year. It fluctuates about 10 students per year, pretty much from my experience, and that's how it's been in other towns. So I can only speak from my experience from other towns. I can't speak for how Freetown would. It may even be a slow process in the beginning. I'm suspecting because again, it's one of those. My friends are going to Oak Colony. I don't want to be the guy that's going. So it may take a little long. Again, that's just me.
Okay. As a follow-up to that, so if our enrollment changed, our liability would also increase if it went up, or go down, it would decrease.
Right.
So it's not based on buying a specific number of seats. And would there be a limit to how many people we could send there?
If you could just explain to the group, because I think it's important for the town folks to hear. The first aspect is actually just to take a vote in action on membership.
Right.
I think the town's doing their due diligence, knowing that long-term there's an impact relative to capital. Because this building project is not something, that assessment, the monies that we're talking about now, would not take effect for the coming school year.
That's correct.
And Alex, maybe just speak to that.
Yeah, we just started taking some bond. We just asked for money just recently because we started, doing the infrastructure work. So we're not taking, obviously, it's a $305 million project. As you mentioned, it's about 180 overall. The state did give us that grant.
I don't mean to interrupt you if you've done. I was the chairman of the committee to join Oak Colony in their last third and final attempt many years ago. So this comes back to me.
That's right. I was on the committee that joined Oak Colony when I was on the school committee as well.
Okay.
So I was on that committee as well. So I understand now.
Thank you. I answered that question.
So when is the estimated completion date for the project?
They're giving us estimated completion date of 2026.
2026.
Yeah, is opening the doors and walking in. So we don't expect to have full amount to about 2025. So it'll start going up in increments, and you won't get hit with the full assessment. In your case here, because right now you only have, I believe, 30 students. So it'll take some time to build versus having everybody. If you already had a full class of 70 students or 80 students or whatever it may be,
And just so folks can clarify, the reason that we only have 30 students is because Oak Colony refused to accept our students for a year, and the second year, and graciously, Bristol Plymouth started accepting non-member students. So the number that you're hearing of, you anticipate kind of that 15 students per grade over 4 grades. That kind of gives you the number that historically Freetown students have attended vocational schools. So.
And the good note, you haven't paid, you haven't paid any of those additional assessment. It's just whatever the state is required to pay, and the assessment that was there for the last 2 years, maybe the next 3 years. So.
Yeah, I just Alex has hit it, and he will answer any questions in relation to that. All the vocational schools are in the process of a building project, so there will be an assessment regardless of the outcome, and we have to kind of look at that long term in relation to programs, facilities. Short term, if you look at the tuition, it's less than Oak Colony. I'm not saying it's the driving force. Transportation is about equal. Mm-hmm. So for the next couple of years, in addition to the enrollment piece, I think the town will see short term a slight savings based on the numbers, and then obviously as the capital project rolls in and those numbers increase, you could project out some of the numbers you're sharing with the community tonight, so there's no sticker shock or a surprise.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want it to be as transparent as possible about all this stuff. I know there's so many variables, right? Change, but any other questions? Yes.
Vinnie Carpenter. I own and operate Vincent's Plumbing out of Freetown for the last 12 years. I was called firefighter in town for 9. And from 2015 up till this year, I was a vocational teacher at Diamond. So I kind of know a little bit about the process. So being that you said 25 or 26 the school would be completed?
26 is our entering date. Yeah.
So for most vocational programs, students really can't start until that year or the next year because they won't get the accredited hours that are due. So my concern as a parent, my daughter was declined entry into Old Colony, it was the first year, so she was devastated. And my son is in 7th grade. He's focused on vocational education. What's our option for the next 4 or 5 years?
Well,
15 students a year, right? I mean, that's.
Well, right now, that's what the school committee is voting on because you guys are not members.
Right.
If you become members, you're going into the pool. You could get 30 kids for all I know. I mean, I know. I'm just.
Into your school.
Into
Covers
the
it?
school.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, so now, but the point here, right, if we make that decision, I personally do think it's the right decision, but then we will be on the hook for the financial side of the new school, right?
Right.
So, you know, you can't have our cake and eat it too, you gotta.
Oh, that's fine.
So that's why we wanna be very clear about what we're talking about here. I think that's important.
This is not for the 2026 membership.
Okay, so
This is for the membership already for following a year after.
Yep.
Because it is a longer process as well. Once each town, if everything goes positively, you know, it still has to go to the commissioner. The commissioner, you know, and then it has to go back to the legal council, make sure that. But by that time, that following year, you know, you'll have membership.
Access to the current school.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Thanks for
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, and that kind of puts a point on it, right?
I think Will had a.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say too, and to shout Alex out, because throughout this entire process, the superintendent, Rick, and him have been talking, and we've been talking. I think Alex is probably tired of me bothering him at this point. Just about, hey, what can you do? How many Freetown kids can you get in? What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And every time he's gone above and beyond, making sure that Freetown students can access that vocational education. And I think it's important. I mean, he's a resident of Freetown. He knows how fantastic our kids are, and like Trevor said, we can't have our cake and eat it too, right? And I think this is a almost 30 year issue that we have an opportunity to fix, right? And I think that's huge for the town. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, that's great.
And what Will shared, if I may, was consistent. We were searching for that grade. That was one of my most disheartening experiences in my 8-year tenure here. That we had town residents and children not able to go to vocational school after going through an application process and everything.
Right.
We looked, and just to give you a perspective, our community members, we went to Diamond. I went to Bristol to Greater New Bedford Vote. There were waiting lists, and Alex, speaking of the vocational schools, we couldn't get our kids anywhere. I was searching for not a long-term solution, but to accommodate those students in that one class.
And they work so hard to get their grades up and keep their attendance for this one opportunity, you know. And I spoke to Alex before, where it's also not fair to the community members that are currently enrolled to not have their students go, because now they're making room for Freetown students because the school's not large enough, the capacity's not there.
So if the town took the action of membership in all towns, and Alex can speak to that, some towns have already started that process and support Tom. For example, one of the members already voted in favor. That would at least assure the following year's class, if all goes through with DESE, that you have member enrollment, and as you build towards that building project piece. In addition to carrying over all the kids who are currently going to be incoming freshmen and currently sophomores. We currently have, and I know the board has this information, I believe 31 students that are Freetown students that are currently attending Bristol Plymouth.
Okay, thank you.
Another question. Isn't there actually a benefit to the region as well? If they consolidate with more towns, they get a better reimbursement from the state if they have less entities to deal with. I know back in the day that I was involved, that was a benefit to the region as well as the towns.
Our rate has been finalized by the MSBA, what we get for reimbursement for this project. And Freetown was not included in that, you know, that rate. But I would say it would probably hurt us if Freetown came in that rate. What's keeping us rate high again? It's all, you know, City of Taunton's done, you know, because of the city, because it goes by, you know, whatever formula they use, and you know whether Freetown can afford it, or you know, every town pays something a little different, and Taunton tends to.
When I was involved, that was an advantage to the district as well as the town. By consolidating with adding another town to the group, increase the reimbursement from the state?
No, I'm not sure if there are grants or not, you know, if this gets approved, whether you guys have some kind of grant, whether it's like going to regionally, you know. I know there's some sort of grant for a while, I don't know if that's still offered, but, you know, regionalizing, and that could be a benefit for the town for, I mean, it's only like a year or so, but it's not like, you know, once it's through the grant, I'm not sure if it's even available. It was for a while, but I'm not sure if it's available.
I remember it was percentage points.
Yeah.
Like half or anything, it was just a few percentage points better if we had
Yeah.
more communities involved in one meeting.
Well, I will say that, you know, one of the positives, you know, of towns approving the town of Freetown is they're looking at, okay, we're gonna have some support of, you know, paying this project as well. So they see the numbers as a, you know, more numbers paying in, you know, big, you know, less for them as well, you know what I mean? So, less a percentage, not a lot, but it's, in the same as is good, right? So.
Sure.
I have another question. Do you know offhand how many students from Freetown are applying to Bristol Funding? Have you only taken
I don't know,
15?
I know, I could have looked, I wanna say there was about 30.
27.
I wasn't, I know it was about 25, 30 students applied.
And I can answer historically, if you look at the last 8 to 15 years, even prior to me coming on board, and you look at just vocational schools, whether it be BP or Old County, typically it's been about 30 applications from Freetown. And so that number of 15, it's not a sticking number, as he said, there's no quota. It's pretty consistent with what families ultimately commit. We ultimately have a few of our families here in Freetown that choose to go to Bristol Aggie, for example. And then maybe some look to a private potential, you know, private Catholic school, you know, that piece. So the number of balance is off. It appears that it's like a 50% approval, but it's really not. It's really a decision. A lot of times families, you give them that initial application, then choose to back off and decide that maybe upon it's, you know, the right choice as well. So I do think that this program in the school, especially with the new building project, will accommodate the need for the town moving forward.
We roughly right now have a population of about 1,300, 1,330 right now on enrollment. This building is designed for 1,450, I believe. So that 100 students that, you know, you're looking, you know, whatever we would call 76, whatever the average. So it will allow us to bring in more students, which in a way, you know, it kind of almost, you know, it won't affect the other towns as much if let's say Freetown takes that slot, you know what I mean? You know, let's say round up to 100. So it keeps everybody pretty much in the status quo type of enrollment. And, you know, we are getting a lot more applications, I will say. You know, good thing, but it's also, you know, it's very disturbing to me when I tell, you know, a family that they can't come. It's, you know, you know, we always know if you're making the right choice, who comes, who goes, but you know, we all have some seats. It's challenging.
We have a question about.
Christine Jimmelson, are there any other towns that are trying to join the district?
Not I'm aware of, no. No. Yeah. Just to give you a little insight, the town of Freetown was actually one of the original members when they first started putting Bristol Plymouth together. And the reason why I'm in this situation today is that in 1970, whenever it was, 1967, whatever, we backed off. You know, town of Freetown backed out. We didn't sign the original agreement. Dyton Rehoboth came on board about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. But because they had signed the original agreement, and they possibly reviewed it after the commissioner allowed them to be assessed. Allowed going through this process.
And we tried that strategy.
We did try that. We were looking for every minutes we could find to see if there was a vote, but unfortunately we could not find it. You know, find things from 1967 and a little tough.
Mr. McElhey, can you just let us know who are the member towns of your district, and also, I'm assuming there's a separate school committee?
There's one school committee, so it's only one regional school committee.
And what is the representation? Is it one member?
One member of each town. The only one that has two is the city of Taunton has 2 members. We have Bridgewater, Raymond, Middleborough, Dayton, Rehoboth, Berkeley, 7 and 7. And we have 8 members now as on board.
Thank you.
Any other specific questions? Alan?
My concern moving forward is if we don't become a member, where are our kids gonna go? Because Alex cannot continue to take our kids when we use Taunton, and we had this conversation, using Taunton. They have kids who are not getting in, who are waitlisted. Our kids who are not members, not because of them, we're choosing not to, where are they gonna go? Because eventually Alex is gonna have to say no, and I understand that. That's my concern, because then there's no room there's no room anywhere, other than maybe Aggie, and that's not gonna take care of all of our kids' needs, so.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean,
And Aggie is a county school. It's the whole financial picture of how that school is supported is very, very different.
I'm sure they have different shops as well, right? And different.
They're more agricultural, but they are a county school, so they're supported by Bristol County taxes.
Yeah.
And Alex isn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Question, sir?
Yeah, sorry, Jake Rogatai, Freetown. My question is, so I've heard a lot about, like, it seems like all we're talking about is the dollars, and that's what we've heard the most, and maybe that's the main concern for this meeting. My question is the concern about, like, our students. So I think I heard that there's maybe more options at Bristol Plymouth. But
19 locations.
Yeah, I don't know what's the difference between that and, you're saying 19 more than Old Colony?
19 at Bristol Plymouth being offered at the new school.
At the new school versus how many at Old Colony? I'm sorry. Do we know?
I want to say it was
Currently BP offers 6 more shops.
6 more shops.
Yep, 6 more shops in Old Colony. And you can go on both websites and do the comparison. Some of them overlap, however, a lot of those 6 are programs that aren't offered at Old Colony.
Yeah. So
There's all the shelves. Sorry to interrupt.
Nope. You should be speaking to this.
I'm not gonna look that. So my question, my concern is more for our students, our children, is we do everything else with Lakeville for all our schools, for all our sports, for pretty much everything. And now we have children who, when they want to go to vocational school, instead of being able to go with their friends, there'll now be 15 of them going to a school of 1,500, as opposed to maybe even more, because they'd be more likely to go if they knew their Lakeville friends were going to a smaller school with more kids they're likely to know. And that, to me, is a better experience for our children, and especially with Old Colony, like you guys said, getting a new school, I'm sure they'll be getting more shops as well. That's coming down the road. This dollar value is inevitable no matter what school we pick. So I don't know why this is the main topic. The main topic should be our children and getting them the best experience. And to me, the best experience in high school is being with the people you're closest with.
Yeah. So I think it's to make sure we're clear, we're not accepting our students at Old Colony.
But it's the same reason that he's not going to accept our students, is because we're not members.
Yeah, but do we even have the
We
option?
weren't even offered that
We're not
option.
offered to be members.
Right, but we weren't offered anymore because they had to give it to people that they, in their thing, just like he's gonna have to do.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. We have an opportunity to become a member of BP. That's our only, really, I mean, I'm very sad, I think it's a great school and all, we don't really have any other options anyways.
So there's no other option to, you said you guys researched, so there was no other option to go back to Old Colony, they wouldn't have accepted us?
Well, for us, go ahead.
No,
For
no.
us in the moment, right,
Yeah.
coming off the year where we had, in my opinion, I'd say they were left out in the cold. For Old Colony not to give us any assurances, right, that the same thing wouldn't happen throughout the entire process that we tried to gain membership, for us was unacceptable. And another thing about Old Colony too that we were told in that meeting was that if Freetown was going to join that Old Colony district, we would be responsible for a piece of the pie of their current debt. Old Colony currently has debt. BP, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't currently have that, right? So I hear you. What we did, and our committee consisted of educators, parents, community members. We did look at both. We looked at the financials, we looked at the educational aspects as well. And for us, at the end of the day, it was a relatively easy choice for us. Trying to start this relationship with BP, it wasn't an easy one by any stretch of the imagination, because we are a regional district. We do understand that our kids come together in 4th grade, 5th grade, and they stay together until 12th grade, and that's powerful stuff, right? We talked about that, but in the moment, we just didn't see any other alternative.
No, Old Colony wasn't playing with us in the sandbox. It really was a terrible.
Yes, as superintendent, so they've articulated it well. I mean, I wanted to share my frustration. We had colorful, animated conversations.
Yes,
I had 30 of my students, 30 of our students, right, that applied, went through an application process, believed that they were going to be given a vocational opportunity like the previous 18 years had happened, and we're told at the last minute that it wasn't happening. I fought for months to try to get those kids in that 1st grade, which are now going to be juniors, I believe.
Correct.
If I remember correctly.
Yes, because you
We were then, so then the committee went to the Old Colony to see, in fact, that would this happen potentially again for the next year, and the answer is yes. So we realized that we had to look at all our options. I will speak to the educational piece, because you're absolutely right. This is somewhat top-heavy, no offense to the town officials, relative to finances and numbers. And the reality is it should be, right? I mean, taxpayers would need to know what this cost is. I was looking at it strictly from what is the best educational value for our kids. And Mr. Strauss and I had conversations about that.
That's unanimous, right?
So the programs, it wasn't close, no offense, in relation to what the programs and services offer. You make a real valid point for our kids, right? In the reality of those kids that are at the middle school, because we finally bring them together, right? Freetown and Lakeville through 4th and 5th grade after they come from the 2 towns, and now they have that, then now we have that kind of separation there. It's not ideal, but I do think that we considered that as part of the, when we looked at the financial piece, the educational piece, and the facility piece, and came to the conclusion that this was the right direction. And the reality is, keep in mind, the state was saying, listen, it is unacceptable for a town to not have a vocational option for our students. I mean, I had conversations with the commissioner saying, no, please, let me clarify here. It is not us that's prohibiting this. We have had a system in place for 18 previous years where Freetown children were attending as non-member students, and we're told last minute. And that's why we're looking at these options. So, again, not to look back to history, but I think it's important that folks understand that the first group that we went to was the existing vocational option for our students to maintain the integrity of what had been in place for our kids. But I'm not going to deny that piece that you brought up, that you do have those kids. I will say the high school level, secondary level, Alan has the experience. That is a time typically where students tend to make some of those decisions relative to some of those options. We do have students, a small percentage that go to, Bishop Stang, for example, and other options that are out there. Obviously, we're promoting most of our kids going to, no offense to Alex, at least in my tenure, Alan may feel differently. I want them to go to Aponequid, right? I mean, that's the flagship that I'm saying. But I also, if you have not been to a vocational technical school like Bristol Plymouth or Diamond recently, there's no comparison. What those schools can offer, that set of kids that wants to attend, from a life skill perspective, we can't do that in Aponequid. And that's why you make these membership alliances. So I just think it's important. I know there's a lot of numbers being thrown out. I think it's really the town being really diligent, that there's no surprises a year from now when you signed up and say, we didn't know that commitment also had
That's exactly my perspective on it, right? At the end of the day, we have to pay for it, so I think it's important to communicate it.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Does Old Colony have a date to build a new school, or is that just conversation?
I'm not familiar.
I know it's.
Within the next 10 years.
Well,
Yeah,
it's even sooner
they're
than
in the
that.
process now with basically what they're doing now. I know, because we went through that.
Feasibility.
They've been invited to the MSBA, so now they basically have to go and justify what the needs are. It could be a renovation, it could be addition, it could be a whole new building. So now they're doing all this, give them all the feedback to them. It's gonna take, I'll tell you right now, it's gonna take about 6 or 7 years, when Old Colony gets built. I hate to see what the price looks like in 6 or 7 years, but I'm just saying. So that's where they are. They have been invited to the MSBA project. The first couple of years, it's just a lot of information you have to send to them, and it's quite the process. So that's where they are.
I will say that the one downfall to all of this is to what your point is, the social aspect, right? For the kids, as a father with an 8th grader, 12th grader, 5th grader, I get it, right? Like, friends are everything, but you also gotta look at it from an education standpoint. So as a parent, I see both sides where this is. The debt part of it, I'm not really as bothered by with the Old Colony, because as far as I'm concerned, we're kind of responsible for some of that.
Agreed.
Because we were sending our kids there, right? So that, I throw that argument to the side and look at it more from what gives our kids the best education, so.
Can I just add to the social aspect of it? Good to remember, we have, we also have 7 towns. They're also going to, and some populations even smaller than what Freetown is actually bringing. We hope it's actually a small Freetown. The kids adapt very, very well, and you're right, they do follow their friends. And because we do have some kids that leave, that are there for 3 months or whatever, and they say, okay, the school's not for me. And a lot of times, if you do a study, they want to go back to their friends, wherever they, or either that, kids will pick a school because their sports is better. They're not picking because of maybe they can be good plumbers and or whatever. They're picking you're asking 8th graders to make a choice. So and not only are you having to make a choice at school, you're asking them to make a choice of a career that they're going to be in there for the next 4 years. It's very challenging for that. So, but I'm just saying that kids adapt very well. They're coming from all over the place. They're coming from, like I named all the towns they're coming from. And a lot of them get intimidated even when they see Taunton kids, but I tell you right now, they adapt, and it won't take long for them. What makes somewhat vocational special is, and Vinny can probably speak to it, is once they get in their shop, that becomes their family. They're with each other all day for a whole week, and they feel very comfortable. We feel part of that school.
I've seen students not even want to be in the shop and just stay there because they've made friends in that shop already.
So the social, the social aspect.
It's not the right decision.
They're young.
Yeah.
And there's also a discipline aspect,
Yes.
correct? So you've gotta maintain that level, if not, you're excused, correct?
Well, no,
Or there's a
we don't make sure
process?
there's a lot of support services to make sure that they meet their grades and so forth, but we don't kick anybody out. A lot of times what happens is students who start failing certain shop, and in our school, you can't move to a next grade level if you fail one of the shops. So basically, if you stay back, you're gonna have to take all those academics back again. So what happens now, students who say, well, I don't want to take the academics again, I'm going back to my school. Very rarely that happens, but I mean, again, we have a teacher here that can speak to that. Otherwise, they're just like any other school. They have to pass the academics, and if they pass it, we run in summer school right now. To get their grades up, to try to keep them going, because we want to see our kids, be successful and graduate. We want those numbers out there, just like any other school.
I think we have 2 questions. First.
Nikki Cassidy, doesn't your school also offer a camp in the summertime where kids can go and become familiar with what you have to offer?
Yeah.
1 or 2 weeks?
Yeah, so we offer like a exploratory camp for and we're 5th through 7th grades. Students come in and they'll pick a shop, culinary, and they'll culinary is a popular school, but and they'll be there for all week for 3 hours, and they do the cooking. They work in the shop. They bake, whatever they do some plumbing. They do they go automotive. They work on small engines.
But they can do more than one thing, right? They can...
Well, it's by 1 week, so we open up for a full month, and each week it's a new group. So if you want to have a child go there for 4 weeks, you pick the 4 available shops that they will offer.
And I believe Old Colony started that the year after they didn't allow our kids to go in, so Old Colony didn't offer that in the summer. It was the year after they started offering those summer shops, because my second daughter took advantage of that, as well as the offerings at BP.
John, back up.
Okay. Getting back to Old Colony, in defense of them, I'd like to remind everyone that there were 3 separate attempts for Freetown to join, and I was only involved in the last one, and went through crunching all the numbers and all of that, and all 3 times at the very last moment, Freetown backed out, you know, so I can understand them having some animosity and
fair.
feeling that.
Yeah, and I can speak to that. I have nothing negative to say relative to the relationship and the educational experience that I feel that Freetown students had at Old Colony. The circumstances came up with the non-membership piece that really, that's when it broke down, and there certainly was some history to that.
They were very accommodating and very welcoming and helped tremendously to try to make this work with my committee. But the year that this all transpired was a bad year for the town financially. In fact, we had just removed 90% of the street lights in town, and we had a town auction of abandoned equipment to try to raise money. You know, and they were trying to do everything they could. And when the numbers came up, of course, it was going to be substantially more to buy in than it would have been to continue to rent the seats. And the selectmen decided they didn't even want to present the proposal after over a year of trying to work it all out. So, you know, I can understand their feelings. And, it's a shame. I'm sure Bristol Plymouth is a good school, but I had more involvement with Old Colony and found it very well run, and you know, just a great school for a great experience for children.
I don't want this to be, a BP against Old Colony. Old Colony is a very, very good school, and I know the superintendent very well. Vocational schools, we don't compete against each other. That's what made this very uncomfortable, for me, because that's not what we want to do, and we want to make sure that I have school superintendent, quite often, and that's why we move forward. But they're a very, very good school. They may not have as many shops, but they're a smaller school. But their kids do very well and very successful. Great education.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Amanda Barlow, East Freetown. So right now, the conversation that we're having is because we're going to need to vote as townspeople if this is something we even want to move forward with. What is the likelihood, and I know you can't say for sure, what is the likelihood that if we vote to become a member, when that's put before the members of the region already, those other representatives from those cities and towns that currently are part of Bristol Plymouth, what are we looking at for likelihood that they'll accept us in consideration of now we are taking spots?
Yeah. So I'd have a little more, I'd be a little more concerned had this been another year, but I think right now they're also looking at, they have a bill coming their way. They're looking at the, having another member help support that bill would probably be a good time to let, more, another town in. Otherwise, I know that, we had, our discussion in our school committee, allowing 15 students come in. There's a lot of discussion back and forth. How about, how about the waiting list for, this group and that group, and, is it fair? But the consensus was that we had letters from the commissioner and letters from, this selectmen.
And Alex, your school board, which is representative of all those towns, was the first vote of support.
That's right.
Okay.
Which would, that representative.
Okay.
Right.
Hopefully
We wouldn't be
speaking
here
for
if
that.
the board hadn't agreed to move forward.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, I know Tom has already taken a formal approved vote.
Yeah, we had to, I can't say, right now, because I haven't got anything from them, but I also believe that Rainham did too.
So I think 2 of the communities have already supported, and all of the
So it
community
indicates
members.
that, okay.
And
Because I'm just
when I was
waiting to
going
see us do all this, and as citizens, I mean, our town meetings as it is, everybody's pretty vocal, which is good. I mean, we should have more voters, but people are vocal, so I think these are things that are gonna come up, and if it's looking like we're gonna be stonewalled or not voted in as a member anyway, I think that's something that would be concerning to the community members of Freetown at the town meeting in which this becomes a vote.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fair point, good question.
Yeah, to Alex's point, I actually went to the meeting where they did vote to allow 15 students to go next year. And that vote, Alex, was unanimous, right? And I thought it was gonna be, I was like, oh boy, I'm gonna strap in, it's gonna be a long night. I was there probably 10 minutes. It was really quick, and it was unanimous, so.
But I'm not sure I'd roll the dice and try to do it for another year.
No.
That's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem. They'll be nice for a while, but I'm not sure beyond that. And as the new person coming in, I have to look 3 and 4 years down the road.
And as a Rehoboth resident, if you read your local paper, I get them to sign on board right now. They've got enough issues going on right now in my own community relative to regionalization aside from this, but I think they're ready to, in a special town meeting, to support this decision as well.
Our school committee, like any other school committee, we have to vote on school choice. We vote school choice down all the time. We don't want school choice. But we have to have a special, vote when it came to Freetown only because of the communication we've had. And right now they're, ready to move forward, but.
Just one last question. Is there current transportation from Freetown to UP?
Yes.
Yes, similar cost to Old Colony. So we provide transportation for our vocational students. We actually supply, so we still have one class remaining at Old Colony, right? Those students that were that last grade coming through, they'll actually be seniors this year. And we provide, the town of Freetown supplies transportation, and will continue to provide transportation for that. Pretty similar cost. Obviously, as you have more students, one way it will be less than Old Colony, there won't be a cost there, but in fact, the bus company works with both, and we actually have a central location, and logistics work out, but transportation is provided.
Sorry, one final question. So if the town votes no, then we're just stuck in this same position we're in now?
That's a good question, so maybe Deb, you can speak to this, of like, what are the steps, like, clear steps that need to be taken going forward for us,
I think what I
Yeah.
was going to speak.
Basically, the regional agreement basically says it has to be unanimous, including town of Freetown. So all it takes is one town or one city, our city's already passed, so we don't have to worry about city of town. All it takes is one to say no, and I'll walk back and say, sorry about that, but we can't, no longer,
And so this would be a special town meeting vote, right?
Yeah, it's a special town meeting, yeah.
So
Every town has
that'll be posted, and then, as long as we have a quorum, we'll vote on that, among other things, I'm assuming, right? And, I mean, this is kind of a big thing, so it might be enough to be just that one agenda item, but, yeah, right? And
It's a
then,
legal requirement to provide vocational education if it's wanted.
yeah,
For students, right?
Yeah.
Legally, you have to provide it.
That-
So
I
If
agree.
they vote no, then there has to.
That's a good question, like, I don't know what the recourse is, right? Like, we're in a
You can have funding.
poll. Yeah, that's always a concern, right? And then in addition, there'll be we'll have to be a special town meeting vote on what to do if we do a debt exclusion or not, right? That's just another part of this, that has to go out to the town and vote on. And I think that's an important part of this whole puzzle as well.
Should that be made public if the town denies the acceptance to BP, that they could lose funding for their?
Well, I would have to make that, that could happen, right? I don't know specifically. I guess you're saying, but I have to,
It can happen, it's
Sure
a
can.
possibility. So that's why it's to be voted on in the next session, or the next town meeting.
Yeah.
So,
But I think the vote should be, at least my recommendation would be, to be membership only. That's the vote the town is taking this time. The town's trying to give you some context in relation to like long-term commitment.
Yeah.
You don't need a debt exclusion vote at this
Exactly.
time,
That's
you
right.
need the membership
That's right.
vote. The other piece that we'll send is for those communities that have yet to provide their formal support. I think it sends a solid message that Freetown is all in, right? Not that that's not already committed. I think the most reassuring thing from my perspective as I walked out was that all of their town representatives who are voted in showed support for this decision. So that reflects, in my opinion, hopefully where their towns would stand as it relates. And certainly the building project, as Alex has pointed out, helps there, right? Because now Freetown's picking up a share of the burden. So the concern on this town is other towns saying, great, they come on board and take their share.
Yeah.
I will contact Desi, because it's a great question, to find out exactly what they would do. I don't know of a town in the Commonwealth that doesn't, send its kids somewhere vocationally. I know it's not legal, so I don't know what the ramifications are, but I will contact Desi, it's a great question.
Thank you.
What's the financial impact, without the debt exclusion?
It is whatever the assessment will be, so based on the number of students we have, the percentage of the debt, we will be assessed. We're estimating, and it is just truly an estimate, based on what we think, about $700,000 a year, which is, it's just a portion of our debt assessment. There will still be tuition per student, there'll still be additional costs, but we're paying that already, so the additional impact to the budget, I should say, will be, we're estimating around $700,000.
What's the tuition per student?
14,000.
14 something.
14,821.
And that's based on Desi tells
Yeah,
us.
that's on Desi's formula, and it goes by what the town is able to pay.
So there's
For
the.
example, if the town is cheaper, but yet we hope it's part of the highest per student. I'm not sure it's
If I may, just to give you an idea, and use some history, so the town of Freetown paid the transportation to transport the students last year, about $94,000. So that was the transportation cost to transport the current BP students. Add tuition, $14,851 per student, actually O'Connell is $2,000, almost $2,000 higher than that, so you were paying that fee. That was your total vocational piece. That's gonna continue, and then obviously this capital assessment will come on top of that. It would come on top of that under any vocational option that you chose based on what we're hearing tonight, right? That Diamond already has a project underway. That Old Colony has already started that process as well. But you're paying, so the town residents are paying tuition, which you've historically done, transportation costs, and some sort of capital assessment down there.
Do we anticipate that the tuition will stay somewhat level, or will it increase dramatically when the new building has been completed?
No, the capital assessment is always gonna be, we don't know what the capital, depending on the number of students. As far as tuition is, it's all Desi, it's to the formula Desi uses. I will say that, we've all, since my tenure and tenure prior to my superintendent, prior to becoming superintendent, we're proud to say that we've always gone to town and got minimum contributions. The town, we never assessed above minimum, whatever the state tells us, it requires us to educate the student by the town. We're proud of that record, but the capital assessment will be.
So capital assessment is the change in what we've already been paying tuition, we've already been paying transportation. So we've been able to fund those through our budget and don't anticipate anything different. The tuition may change, but that's set by the state, and it's a calculation, a formula, and they tell us what it is. But the capital assessment is $700,000. If a debt exclusion is not approved by ballot question in town meeting, and we have to absorb that into our budget, that's a concern. And we don't have $700,000 in our budget to just say, okay. So, part of this meeting is to educate the town on that as well, that there is a commitment, and once we belong to the school, that we will have to pay the assessment, whether it be a debt exclusion or from the budget, it has to be paid. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
I have a question.
Yep.
So what is the district, oh, Ashley Barlow, East Freetown.
Thank you.
What is the district cap for BP? It sounds like if everything goes through, we're gonna add on the possibility of having upwards of 100 kids go, which is great. You add on 3 more districts, now we're dropped to 25 kids per district. So, I mean, what is the cap that you allow for districts to come into your school?
Which agreement doesn't allow us to have caps. It just goes, the applications go into a pool, they get evaluated, and they get picked, and,
So like hypothetically, you could have, it could change pretty substantially, right?
It could.
You had a class of just brilliant geniuses from
But
one
sure.
particular town.
I don't
Teachers
understand.
asking for districts, not students, right?
Okay,
Like,
sorry.
like if other towns wanna come in, but all the other towns would vote for that.
Okay.
So you mean if another town wanted to come into our district?
Right, I'm asking, so if we get voted in, that's great, you're saying you're going from estimated 1,300 kids, estimated 1,400 kids, that's a surplus of 100. We have 70, however many of those slotted for us.
Right.
You add on three more districts or towns, you add on 3 more towns, you're then, you're dividing that number by those towns.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't necessarily have
Yeah, good job.
76 seats in the future if you add on more towns.
Yeah, it's possible. But right now, I don't know any town nearby within our, radius of caption that doesn't have a vocational school. The only other school that was part of our membership back in '67 when they started, it was Seekonk, believe it or not. And I don't see Seekonk coming to town. They go to Tri-County, and they're closer to Tri-County than they would be coming to town. So right now, I don't see any other town, because I think every town now around here is a member of some place, whether it's Greater Bedford.
And Alex, you referenced, I think there was another question, there have been no towns to date, it's a multi-year process that have expressed, trying to reach out to you, expressed interest at this point.
Yeah, one of the reasons for my questions is it's gonna be a brand new state-of-the-art school. People are gonna wanna go there as opposed to maybe their local vocational schools that they have to choose from now. So just wanna make sure that we're giving our town a fair shot, and it led into a second question. So for your pool process, what does that look like? You keep saying you throw everybody's names into a pool, but do you have any more clarity on what that is?
Well, there's an admissions policy. Basically, they look at your grades, they look at your discipline, they look at your, I don't know the whole thing, because I'm not the one that
Right.
does it, and then there's an interview process and so forth, and there's a group that, they have a rubric. This admissions policy has to be approved by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And then we give them the rubric, Al has approved, and then the school committee has to approve this process. And then any student that applies has to go through that process. The application has to be full. I will tell you, we had about, we only allowed 360 freshmen. We had roughly 800 applications. There's always gonna be a few that apply, just to see what happens, and they don't even come in, 20, 30 would say no. We know that another 20 may say when the first day of school, we're not the only ones. I mean, this is a vocational piece. So, and a lot of kids just apply to see if they, in case they want to go somewhere else and they didn't get accepted to staying or whatever. I mean, they won't. But yeah, you're right. When there's a new building, there tends to be gravity towards that new building. It happened to us in Middleborough. Middleborough just built a brand new one. Middleborough was one of our second highest enrollments. Their enrollments dropped almost double digits.
Wow.
Because a lot of the students wanted to go there. But it tends to balance off. Bridgewater Raynham did the same thing back about 10 years ago, and now it's kind of balanced out. We lost a bunch of students, and then it kind of starts balancing out again.
So the student, regardless of the town that they're coming from, they all have to undergo the same exact process. So if all of the students that apply from Freetown outweigh somebody from Taunton or Bridgewater or Raynham or whatever, all of the kids from Freetown would be accepted versus, okay.
That's a requirement. So where I came from, we were both a comprehensive high school and a vocational high school. And so we just went through that process, and the state was very specific that it has to be the same set of standards for everybody. It's almost, you take names off. In this case, you almost take towns off, and you just score them. And you score them through a rubric from 100 down to 80. You have a cutoff number. Usually it's 75, 77. All the students above 77 are in, others are waitlisted, and then they're notified, and some just pull out, and so the waitlist then continues. So it's all based upon a scoring program.
That's a really good point to bring up at any sort of future meetings for parents who are possibly questioning, how the weight is distributed. I think that's a great process to follow, so thank you.
And what we do too, we have a grade, like I mentioned, every school has a different score cutoff. And you could have, let's say that's my next round, because we lost a few kids, we're going to go to the next round, and there's 15 students at 77. What we do is we put that into a lobby. And we take that, make sure that, it's there, we take that, and if it's only 5 kids, you're 10
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
I did.
You did it.
It's a great song.
You can get no matter what.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to, my name's Kristen Holland, I'm from East Freetown, and fairly new, we've only been here a little while. I just wanted to echo support for this venture. I'm from Taunton, so I've seen the benefit of the Taunton and BP exchange. I was very involved in the DECA program with my older son, and Taunton and BP work simultaneously together. We train the kids, we get them ready. There's a lot of collaboration, and I can only hope that this would be, supported by our superintendent here, and that we would want that collaboration between the schools. But my fear, honestly, is that we don't have enough space for the kids that need the vocational education. The kids that really need it aren't getting in. So I can't say enough good things of what you're doing, and I hope that we as a town support this venture.
Alex and his colleagues have a real tough problem. You're absolutely correct. The kids are lining up. When we reached out a couple of years ago, they were all the schools wait list. They're like, listen, we'd love to have a few of your Freetown kids in, except I've got a list of, I call Diamond, I'm talking to the superintendents, and we have a good relationship with Aaron at Old Colony. We were looking at I said, Greater New Bedford, both big school. I wasn't even thinking proximity, I was just trying to find something. I mean, so kids are going to these schools because of really the programs and the offerings and the opportunities, and I think that's across the board everywhere. But as a result, it's become much more competitive, that cutoff and everything else that's been established. I'm excited about a project, though, with just having a larger facility, because obviously you'll open up potentially more opportunities for our kids.
We actually had an opportunity to build a school with 1,500 students, but the price tag was way too high. The school building committee says there's no way we can afford it. They're looking at a $305 million project. You can imagine another 100 students that just blows up, and we couldn't do that. We couldn't do that to our towns. There's no way.
And you could have accommodated it from an interest perspective.
Right, we could. But we chose not to go in that direction because it was just, it was scary. 25 is scary, right? No budget. Thank God that we have MSBA, but even then, they don't pay for everything either.
All right. Yeah. Any more questions, or we also?
When will this go up for a special town committee meeting?
When will this be vote for joining?
So I guess so there's two pieces of this, right? Joining the membership vote to join the school, which is going to be a town meeting vote, and one of the things that we've discussed is, do we have a special town meeting in August with just this vote of joining the school district? And my thought process was, if it failed, that we would be able to come back in October and try to re-vote it, but would that still be a possibility?
I haven't heard that, but I guess it's a possibility, as long as once all the members,
Once all the other towns,
I don't know any other town go back, let's try again, see if Freetown.
And I
You
don't
guys,
think
I guess,
it hopefully
can.
doesn't fail and everything
No.
just goes through.
The reason why it has to be done by December is it's the deadline that the commissioner puts in. It could technically go on to another year, but then you get a whole other year of going through this whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I have to go to my school board and say, hey, can you do that?
Yeah.
We tried that the first time, we tried like 20, but it's in 20.
So that's the first choice, right? Do we join the member school? The second piece of this is, okay, if we join a work, we have to fund the capital asset. Do we approve a debt exclusion, which would increase the taxes for our residents, or not? Because if we don't,
No other option.
well, I'm concerned, right, that really $700,000 out of our budget, we don't have it. Honestly, we don't have it. So I think a piece of this is not just, do we join the school, but do we approve the debt exclusion? And I think that information is important to know before we decide whether we're gonna join a school. So tonight, one of the things on the agenda is, do we vote to have a ballot question prior to the vote to join the school? and that's something the select board will entertain. Because I think the debt exclusion, like I said, it's an important decision, and it's important information to have for the town residents to have before they vote on whether to join the school or not. And they can vote no on the debt exclusion and still vote to join the school. And then we can always, have to revisit that rule.
Yeah.
We have some time, we have a couple of years probably before the full amount comes to fruition.
I think Gina as well.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned with the timeline because this is wonderful that all these people showed up to ask the right questions, the good questions, the hard questions. And you've presented them with some financial data that's very important for them to know, but I think we need to do a little bit more outreach on it. I don't believe, you guys are great representatives of the town, but you're not everybody. And, whoever said at the town meeting is vocal, it's the people that don't know what we're talking about that will be vocal, unfortunately. Or they'll have half the information. I would like to see us get a little bit more information out. I talked about a one-pager.
Yeah.
Is something we could do to help circulate in more detail, because this is an important decision for the kids in Freetown. And we can't kick the can down the road, but we have to be vigilant and cognizant of the fact that people want the facts, and not everybody can come
I think
out.
it's striking that balance, right?
Yeah.
I don't wanna wait too long, right? And I mean, right now it seems like, people are getting engaged, involved, which is great, and I kind of,
It is, it's
almost want to strike with iron's hot, but at the same time, so I mean, what Jen, if you were to suggest, like, when should we have this?
Well,
Just out of
I think we
curiosity.
need to have at least one giant open house discussion. I don't know, I'll defer to the rest of my committee on how we get the word out, but we haven't had an opportunity to really, other than tonight, to really circulate more widely what we're proposing, and this is an important decision for this town.
Totally agree.
Well,
Yeah, it's almost a shame that the vote to join the district and then the debt exclusion are just kind of tied to each other,
together,
because they shouldn't be, right? And I think anytime you talk about education, you kind of want to separate the taxes, even though there is an implication there. For me, Gene, and you can second me on this, I think we're the ones old enough to remember this. When we were trying to fully regionalize the district, this was a month-long, we did a traveling roadshow educating the public on all of that it was going to entail, right? We went to the VFW, we went to the senior center, we had a meeting at each school for parents. And I've been saying it for months now that we're gonna have to do something very, very similar for these votes coming up. We have to be able to educate the public, we have to. August 15th isn't gonna give us enough time to be able to do that.
That's fair.
That's the concern.
And I'd much rather push it back further and not rush something here. I mean, I think we threw this date out, but I think it makes sense to, if you feel like we're rushing it, and you guys have been very involved in this process, I'm totally okay with pushing it out.
well, I mean, I'd almost like to ask folks here, what you think. Is that a little aggressive to just try to hope for August 15th and get people out? Or do you think it would be beneficial to try to get more information, a wider net cast, let me say, so that more people understand?
I think this is a disappointing showing.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
embarrassed.
but thank you for coming. I
Yeah.
mean that.
So I think more people definitely need to know.
That's a good question.
I think
Yeah.
September, October would be a timeline, because kids are back in school, whatnot.
Alan?
Yeah, too many people are disconnected right now from vacation.
Yeah,
Right.
it's summertime,
tough.
people are away. I think
Thank you.
schools are gonna be ramping up open houses. I'm just thinking as superintendent that when Freetown Elementary comes back, there's your first spot.
Yep.
They have open house. Then the intermediate school, they have open house. I really think end of September, beginning of October makes the most sense to me. As a new superintendent, they have no idea who I am, so I need to meet this community and begin to have these conversations. Coming from a vocational school, vocational and comprehensive school, there are a lot of on-the-ground things that we have to do. So I think August scares me.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't think we'll pick a specific date. I think we'll agree to that timeline, makes sense. I think late September, early October. Because I want to check all the other calendars before we kind of just select a specific date. I think that makes a lot of sense. that kind of works with my
Yeah, definitely vote on
Well,
that.
my blood pressure's going back down.
Maybe put this date on there though, kind of got us all.
Right. You had a question in the
I
crowd.
just had a question, what's gonna happen like in the interim time where we're trying to figure this all out, like our son's going into 8th grade and you did, I'm sorry.
I'll fill her in.
They apply
Valid
in
question,
October, so
absolutely.
I'm like kinda nervous with the
Yeah.
timeline, I guess, sorry.
Yes, question back?
The debt exclusion, is that a one-time fee or is that an annual thing?
So, a debt exclusion would be for the life of the loan, which is about 30 years.
So every year it's $700,000 over and above the budget?
Yeah. Yeah, so
So it's not just a one-time?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, like that was just saying, it will fluctuate based on the enrollment, right? It's a variable expense.
That's just our estimate.
Yeah.
So if the town votes, we'll probably fall in line with our October town meeting, the vote to join the school. The question is then, do we have a ballot question prior to, so we have that information going into the town meeting vote?
That is a good question, but then it's one of those things. I don't know, what does the rest of the board just?
Well, I think you may maintain the ballot question prior to our town meeting, just don't pick a date yet, right? So vote on a ballot question, then our town meeting will know the answer, right? We'll know debt exclusion, yes or no, town meeting, join or not join, or.
Yeah, but if you have a ballot question, I've got a timeline for an election,
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
Right, yeah.
so you can't just postpone it.
yeah, no, so what, it'll be what the,
Yeah, but I think if you're gonna do the road show and you're getting the information out there, you don't wanna put the cart before the horse, right?
Well, we wanna know
Do
if
you
the debt
wanna-
that's what I'm
exclusion is,
struggling, that's what I'm struggling with.
yeah.
Right.
Can I?
Yeah.
Retired guy still. They'll stop inviting me at some point, maybe, or I'll just start showing up as a resident. I would just strongly encourage you, that you're looking at that town, your special town meeting
Yeah,
time frame, which is typical. I think that residents are comfortable with that time frame of, that October, early November, late September type of piece. But I think that should be, my recommendation would be solely for the membership piece.
yeah,
You'll have a spring opportunity at the regular town meeting, probably gearing up for the following year special town meeting, where you're gonna have definitive numbers from Alex and the group.
Right.
The special town meeting this fall falls within that December timeframe to get all the membership votes in, and then proceed. Hopefully, that's a successful piece, and then we start accepting, UP starts accepting our students as member students next year from now, for those 8th graders that are there, in addition to the kids that are there, and then you have a more definitive number. That's just my, I'm not speaking for the town officials, but.
no, I see, I can appreciate that.
And to piggyback on that, it's such an important conversation to have, that I think burying it in a fall town meeting, a special town meeting, that you're gonna have a number of articles, it's too important of an issue that needs to be discussed. I think we need to have a separate special town meeting
For this specifically,
for this specific question only.
yeah.
For joining the school.
Yeah,
For
and
just
it won't be
joining
as
the
expensive as an election, where you're having a separate special election, you
The
do have
election
a
is
minimal
different,
cost.
right, than the
Correct.
town
Yeah,
meeting vote,
yeah.
Correct.
two different things,
Correct.
that's for the ballot
Yeah.
question, for financial reasons, joining the school.
I've
You
got
really think,
a question, has anyone done any research into looking for funds that might be available from the federal or state government to help us with this?
I think maybe.
Yeah, well, we've been lobbying and, we did our due diligence trying to get, there were 3 vocational schools that have been up for, new building, Diamond, and, Northeast Metro. And, we're trying to get 300 million, 100 million for each project when, because, they had some money. And, trying to get to help support some of these buildings, especially now with increases of materials and so forth, and, it didn't turn out too well for us, so, but they put some money in there, it was more for renovations, and they kind of look what we gave you, vocational schools, here's your school building, but it was something that really didn't, help us, because we're going to the building, we don't want to be putting money into the building that's gonna be demolished in, 2-3 years from now. So, that didn't help us much, but they did give some money to, some of the vocational schools that required some, additions, so. Unfortunately, it didn't come to the way we wanted, our way.
Yeah.
But
I'm hearing you correctly, I think part of your concern, correct me if I'm wrong, is if we only talk about membership and we vote in and then later talk about the cost. So.
Exactly, so I think.
But I wanna go
here-
back
yeah.
to, I'm sorry, I don't know your first name.
Vinny.
Vinny. His question in terms of what is the amount of dollars that we could lose. And so my research will go directly to DESA to say if we don't vote to be a member, we will lose X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can begin to move, I think. But I understand your concern.
Yeah, it's just, I think the folks that came tonight, I think their hearts and their minds are in the right place, where they're concerned about the actual quality of education for their kids, right? But there's a lot of voters who show up who are maybe more concerned with the financial impact.
Right.
Right, so I need to take all everyone's considerations, and so that's like why the order of events that we do this, I think is important to the potential outcome. And so that's why I really don't wanna make a rash decision here, I wanna make sure we do this in the right way that is fair and transparent. Yes?
I have input on that too, and just, this is only for the town representatives, the board of selectmen, obviously administrator. I would consider when you are deciphering what order to put things, the consideration of if we vote for membership, in the spring, people hear about the money and say, nope, we don't wanna do that. Then we don't have the money because of the budget. What implications on the relationships with our neighbor towns that may have gone out and voted for us now to enter membership, what is that gonna have? Because it appears that the history between Freetown and Old Colony obviously plays a part in this. There's like an emotional aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
What can that have an impact on our future if we vote in membership, the members vote for us to now enter in, and then the townspeople say no about the debt, we don't want it,
So,
and now we can't, so there will obviously maybe be a penalty, we're gonna find out
I
about
can choose
that.
that, no, we're on the hook.
But our
Right, so that
relationships
means
are
that
also
our-
important, and I think that should be
Yeah,
considered
we're on the
too.
hook though,
Yeah.
if we vote for membership, we're on the hook, it's just,
How we're gonna
we'll have to get the money from somewhere
Okay,
else,
okay.
right?
So that's- To Trevor's point is job cuts and other things that you don't wanna talk about, right, happening from the town level that will affect a lot of people within this town, if it goes in that direction.
Right.
Okay.
That's jobs and services.
Yeah, that's not only services, correct?
Can I ask a question? What does the town currently have in stabilization?
We have different stabilization funds, but, we have, I didn't look at regular stabilization, capital stabilization, we have probably roughly $5 million.
Okay.
But that,
That also, I know where you're going with that question, or that statement, but that also, that goes
I
to
know.
the town's vote,
No, I know.
right? So I think it's a fair.
It was worth asking.
Oh, absolutely. That's what.
We looked at it, we looked at it, trust me, we looked at
And
all the
it's
numbers.
just that too, it's stabilization, right? You don't
Exactly.
have to take it
well,
all and
then,
throw
I
it
mean,
out.
we have
Yeah.
3 buildings that are falling down.
Right.
That
100%.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what we're doing.
Well, and the reason behind my question, not to put anyone on the spot, certainly not my intent, but I think there's ways to maybe be creative, right? And Trevor, I was
Yeah.
texting you late one night, and I apologize, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just as the wheels are turning, it's like, is there a way to potentially kind of pay up front and lessen that burden on taxpayers, right? I know that has been done in the past, I'm pretty sure it was done when we were
We did the
building the middle school, so.
Yeah.
But we may have to close other town buildings to do that.
Yeah, I think that, these things, yeah.
You know,
All right, so,
There's a
yes,
substantial number of residents in Freetown that are senior citizens living on a fixed income, you know?
I understand that.
You know,
Right.
personally, the percentage of my social security that goes to real estate taxes is more than 50% right now,
Mhm.
you know? So luckily I have other resources that make it not, the end of the world.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that are not in that position, and, you have to feel bad for them.
Yeah, totally understand, that's why this is an important decision, right? I mean, it's
And
There's a
you're
lot of
stuck
multiple
between a rock
facets,
and
so.
a hard place. If you do, you're covered. If you don't, then you have to make even more desperate choices.
I hear you. All right, yeah.
Just real quick, do we have any idea on the voters that do come out and vote? Do we know the breakdown of those that have children in the school system and those that don't right now? Because I think that will be very telling.
Yeah, I don't have that, I'm sure that some, yeah, Cheryl might have that information, but I do not.
Sure, we have demographics somewhere.
but yeah, I see what you're saying,
Well,
you know.
usually when there's an issue with the school, there's more people that come to that know.
They
I
get
was
the
just gonna
vote
say,
out.
it can sway based on the fact of, if we're voting on something to do with the police, you're gonna have people who are more associated with the police, right? So it, I think to say, all right, Cheryl, if you could find the information based on something that happened in the past, might not be relevant.
I wouldn't spend any time looking into it, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
No, I think it's a very valid point, I'm just saying that it can change from meeting to meeting, right,
So we
based on who is passionate, right? You're all here because you're passionate about what we're talking about, so,
Yeah.
same can be said for town meeting, I mean, there's gotta be certain people who are gonna show up no matter what.
So we have 9,206 residents, 6,876 of them are registered voters. We have some years called in residents to come and attend, because we have a quorum to meet a special town meeting. You are lucky if you get 120 people that come out to town meeting to vote on the budget and make decisions for a town as a whole. So.
It's amazing, it really is.
It's very sad.
That's the whole
It's very
purpose of
sad.
this, is to get the information out, right? We were gonna make all decisions today. It's important that you start talking to your friends, your neighbors, reaching out to whoever you can, so that people do come out, on both sides, so that it's an open discussion, so that we all know what's going on, right? I think we can all say we all support our children, right? That's hands down. But we also have to think of the other side as well, as town administrators, right? So that's what that's for. The
I
question?
think there's plenty of people I would go better. I don't have any kids that are going to that school, but I certainly would like to invest in the future of somebody's kids, whether they are mine or not.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. So, when is the projected year as to when the police station will be paid off?
That's a good question.
6
So
years.
we're in year 2 of an 8-year bond, that we pay $500,000 a year on.
So that's a
So
debt
that's something to
exclusion.
consider as well.
So that's gonna be, as we start to pay this, will be offset by the.
But that was a debt exclusion as well.
That was a
So
Right.
it's it's temporary, right? It's not gonna be something that will roll right into the tax levy,
Okay,
right?
Right.
Yeah, so
Once we pay off the police station, then our then it's no longer being charged in your tax bill.
So we
Yeah.
would still need to do a debt exclusion for this.
oh, no, absolutely,
Correct.
so I'm saying, but I guess,
Overall, how it
so,
hits your pocket.
for a couple of years, you would
Yeah.
notice it more, but it kind of get back to a normal, still what we've all been paying for the police station anyways, right? In the ballpark, I guess, so it's not, yeah.
So it's about the same amount, right? So it'll not
This
wash
is
us
the
out,
kind
but
of
it'll still
important
be there, right? You'll double dip it for a couple of years, then it'll dip off, and then you'll back to today, right?
The problem is
So-
if the debt exclusion is not voted,
Right.
and that the $700,000 has to come out of our budget.
That's fine.
And that's really our primary concern is if we don't vote for it or I'll vote for that exclusion, what do we do? So that's when we have to get creative to find the funds. That's just the facts. We're not, there's no secret sauce, that's just plain facts, plain numbers.
Okay, so I don't think we need to really vote on anything else tonight. I think that we're gonna have more information sessions of this nature. I think that I'm gonna put that in your ball court.
Yep.
And, you know, definitely we'll communicate that out when the time is, when we have these and, time and location. I think we can, for the rest of these items, I think we can add these
We're
to
just gonna table them.
table them, yeah. So are we good
Yeah.
there?
One of the last thing
Yeah,
I just want to bring up, I'm sorry,
yeah.
just make sure that we had talked about making awareness, so that's something we, as, you know, the exploratory committee, we need to figure out is the best way to get it out.
To get it out, well, I'm gonna defer to Superintendent Strauss now, we have a couple of instant opportunities as the school year launches.
Yes.
To do these things in
That's
school,
the
so
one,
that's the launch
orientation.
right there. If there's another, like the road show we did, that was killer for regionalization. But, and we could do a miniature version of that if necessary, if we don't get attendance at some of these open houses or a wide enough net is cast, then maybe we do the VFW in the senior center one night.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of time, but we do need to get the word out, we want people to be informed before they cast a vote.
Yeah, I think even like if there was like a Zoom kind of thing,
We
some
can
for
do a
people that
Zoom,
can't get out there.
certainly can do a Zoom,
Stuff
but
like
not
that.
everybody's comfortable with Zoom.
Yeah, I know, I think,
Um,
track it from multiple angles, you know?
We can, yep, we'll look at options, we'll have discussions, this committee can have discussions on how best to do that.
Great.
And we'll keep you in the loop on what we do finally conclude would be the best we can do, given the time limitation that we are faced with.
Alright, perfect, alright, thank you.
No more questions?
Yeah.
Christine Paiva, as Nikki said, I don't have any children in the school system either, but the people that are here, I commend you. I work at the polls, the people that show up to vote. It's so discouraging. And I'm not blowing my own horn. When I turned 21, I was down at the town hall to vote. I was so excited to do that.
They still have your voter card, your original one.
I've been post too. Nobody seems to care anymore. If you wanna get the word out, the people that have children that play sports, talk about it then at the games, talk about it at any function that you go to, get it out there. I know you just can't slap somebody and say, why don't you? But they're the ones that are gonna be on Facebook. They're the ones that are gonna say, oh, more money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But yet, they're gonna be the ones that say, oh, this is a crappy education, for the town, and, the schools aren't doing enough. You're not doing enough,
Yeah.
really. I would be glad to, help in any way, that I can.
Well, thank you.
Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell everybody. That's the best way to help us, really, to make that decision.
Yes.
There's a lot of that education that people don't know about. People that didn't go to a trade school. They don't realize that the shops are smaller.
Right.
I had 8 students. I was just had 8
Nice.
students, and you see the relationships that they built. It's not 30 kids in a shop, in my shop anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. When in my high school, we had mechanical, electrical, we had a culinary. It was amazing. So it's a great thing for our children.
It's not fair if they don't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Just because of where we live.
I said before, to be a great school district, we need a vocational school.
Alright, so I think I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting and I'm gonna table agenda items 10 through 13. Oh, no, sorry, 9 through 13, just because after additional conversation, I think we need to rethink some of these dates and how we're gonna approach this. But with that, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna have to make the same motion to, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.